welcome back. You are listening to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ, Xbox Live, Toaster 360. He is Steve, Xbox Live, Stevevich. And apparently dead men do tell an awfully lot of tales. In episode 233 today, July 22nd, 2021, we're going to be getting a little, up to date with each other before going right into our topic of the day, which is the Sea of Thieves, A Pirate's Life First Impressions, which you can fast forward to if you look at the timestamps located somewhere down there as I almost knock over my microphone. That's how excited I am about those timestamps. Before we go any further, though, make sure you cause that subscribe button to walk the plank. Maybe even joust with the notification bell. That way you will not miss a single episode of Joygasm that drops every week, once a week. Steve, how you doing?
Doing okay, Russ. Doing okay. How about yourself?
Doing okay. The Aussie spectrum, not necessarily the muy bueno, muy bien.
No, it's about the glass is half full, Russ. Half full. Probably not all the way full, but I mean, I don't have anything to complain about, really.
I have to start. I mean, it's better than looking at it half empty, right?
That's right.
Half full.
Right. But anyhow, how about yourself, Russ? How you doing?
I am doing quite well, actually.
Good.
I must share a quick little story with this shirt. So this is a bit of a newer shirt. However, what caused me to wear it was that I recently found out while watching the Sideshow Collectibles booth tour. They're doing kind of like this online virtual SDCC type of statue tour, but it's at their place of business because the actual San Diego Comic-Con is not actually happening right now. And one of the statues they showed was of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it was something I didn't recognize, though, however. It actually had just one turtle dressed in a lot of like samurai ninja garb. And then it had like his like three brothers behind him in kind of spiritual form, almost like laying hands on him, like blessing him almost kind of thing, giving him their blessing of good luck, that sort of thing. And so it was interesting because I then found out that there was last year a comic book. I think it's a mini series or something like that. But apparently the OGs, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird.
Oh my goodness.
Had a big hand in this, and it was like the story they have been apparently dying to tell for years, and they finally were able to get together and do it along with some other folks whose names escape me for the moment. I apologize. However, it definitely got me really nostalgic for like when you and I collected the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic books and how like edgy and dark they were for their time, especially compared to the cartoon series of 1987. And so I'm now kind of in this frame of mind of wanting to see if I can find it. I'm sure that it's probably hard to find now because it was probably like, I think it was like, I want to say October of last year. Somewhere around there was when the issues came out. But I mean, it's one of those situations where I'm thinking, okay, maybe they'll release like a graphic novel version. You know, like if you go into a comic store, sometimes they'll have like the hardcover, or they'll just have just a graphic novel or whatever. In any event, I'm going to be keeping a sharp eye for that, Steve.
Oh, boy.
Sharp eye. But I figured I would let you know about that right now. Ping-ponging it back to you, Steve. What have you been playing? What have you been watching lately, huh?
Oh, well, I'll say I've been playing some more Forza, Russ.
Oh, which one?
4.
Forza
Horizon 4. Ooh. I want to beat the game before November. I figured might as well just throw it in there and just do everything. And I think I am nearly done. I mean, the season's going to change, and it's going to tell me like, hey, yeah, you're only a quarter of the way. Everything in winter, yeah, all those races are still here. I don't know what's going to happen. But where I am now, it's just saying like there's some of these blockbuster big races that are left. There's like 3 or 4 of them. I mean, I guess I could work on some of the job stuff a little bit more, but I don't know if you really necessarily need to complete that to beat the game.
So are you kind of reaching that point where like you're looking around the world map? I mean, it's not really a world map. It's the map of whatever it is that you.
Yeah, it's the British map.
The British map. Yeah. But are you at the point where like when you're going through, you're kind of having trouble finding the icons that are in progress or that you haven't done yet? Like most of them, I imagine at this point are probably completed.
Yes, they're mostly complete. I mean, all the new ones have new on them, unless they're a timed event, of course, then it has the little clock clicking around.
Do you do those as well?
I rarely ever do that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Are those the ones that are based off of like you can do like multiplayer racing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like a little timed event. There's like a zombie, not a zombie thing, but like you're infected kind of thing. And I don't know how it really works, but I don't think a lot of that stuff is actually part of the Horizon story. I think it's just there for something else to do with other people, but you don't necessarily have to complete anything.
Right.
So I'm nearly there. I pretty much have every car that I really want and am going to use. And I think also, I'll have to send you a link here, but some folks have been saying that in Forza Horizon 5,
yes,
they are fixing the audio for the cars. I've always been telling you this. Where like the revving sounds and the motors sound like synthesized a bit, but they're not exactly like, okay, here's a microphone, here's near the exhaust, or here's how it sounds like actually in the car. But they go back and forth with certain cars, and the sound of the cars is getting better with Forza Horizon 5. It's not gonna be like a 90-day difference, but it's definitely noticeable.
Well, maybe perhaps your trained ear will in fact exonerate you from my naysayer.
Right.
Naysayerism. Something like that.
I don't know if that's a word.
It's probably not. It's a Russism.
But I told you the other day I saw the Tomorrow War with
you did. Yeah, you mentioned that to me.
And I didn't mention it to them.
You sure did not.
But the show was okay. I mean, it's a popcorn action flick. It's kind of like Starship Troopers in a way, although a bit cleaner.
I will say I'm very surprised.
No shower scenes in this.
Dang it. Yeah. No, I was surprised to hear you say what little you did say that actually sounded more positive.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I mean, when you first told me that you watched it, I was thinking, oh, here we go. He's going to like totally just bag on it. But you really didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd go through and watch it again, but I'm not disappointed. I mean, there was a lot of negative press with the show.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I'm just going to see it. I mean, Chris Pratt's in it. I'm a fan of Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
So I thought, I give it a whirl. If I mean, it's terrible, then I haven't lost any money, haven't, lost really anything.
Yeah.
So I just figured I'd watch it. And yeah, it's so I'm going to go on record and say it's not terrible. It's not terrible. It's not as bad as everybody says it is. Like, yes, it probably could be better. Yes, it probably takes itself a little bit too seriously, but it ain't bad. It's not. It's not
like
horrible.
What the social media is making it out to be.
I think when you watch the trailer, it looks way more intense than it actually is. And it looks like it's crazy serious. And then you start watching it in the story and it gets explained. You're like, yeah, okay, this is kind of not really believable. Whatever. The script is meh. But I don't know. I had a good time with it. So I don't know. I mean, if you pick it up, you're on Amazon, you want to give it a spin, give it a watch, give it a whirl.
I might just do that actually.
Turn up the sound a little bit, Russ.
Might just do that.
And I thought I would show the wife Scarface.
Oh, wow. That is a classic.
She had never seen it.
That's why you were asking me if I had Scarface.
That's right.
He texts me randomly asking if I have Scarface. I'm thinking, no, I don't think I own that.
Steve, odd question. Why would you ask me that?
And I don't think I ever asked you. I never pinged you back with, why are you asking?
Yeah,
I just went,
no. No, I don't. God, I wish she would have asked me. I could have told him all about it.
Why aren't you curious?
Like, don't you want to ask me? Send.
Yeah. So you haven't seen it yet?
Oh, we saw it.
Oh, you did see it?
We saw it.
Okay,
yeah.
and I assume you had seen it prior to showing your wife, right?
Once, yes.
Okay, so what did the wife think?
She liked it. I mean, she kind of likes a lot of the action-y flicks.
Well, and that film took place a while ago. I mean, like
1983.
Yeah, like they were able to get away with certain things that not so much today would you. I mean, you would maybe see that here and there, but I mean, that was one of the all-time classics right there.
It is, and the acting is very, very good. It's very well cast. And I'm pointing out some of the actors to her. I'm like, "Do you recognize that guy there?" Yeah. And she's like, "No, I don't." And I started like doing little stuff from other movies that we've seen with Mary Elizabeth Monstrano, and then there's a guy I can't.
Well, Michelle Pfeiffer's in
Michelle
that.
Pfeiffer's in there. I'm like, "You recognize her?" She goes, "Is that Michelle Pfeiffer?" I'm like, "Yep."
Yeah.
She's like, "Is she 20?"
I
don't know.
Actually, a lot of actors in there were super young. Al Pacino was very young.
Gosh, that's like 40 years ago. I mean, jeez. Anyway, and then I'm trying to remember his name. He's the guy who Al Pacino works for after the kitchen job. Remember, he brings the coke and the money to him and says, "Hey, basically, I want to work for you." And then it's the guy with the mustache, kind of introduces him to the business. You'd recognize him. He's in other like mafia flicks and like some other,
I'm having trouble
crime
like
stuff.
getting like 100% picture of his face. I know who you're talking about because he ends up offing him
right
early on in the film.
Yeah.
And kind of like
Spoiler alert.
Well, the film came out like
no,
like to your point, 40 years ago. It's just not like it came out last week.
Anyhow, so he played a small role in one of the seasons in The Sopranos, and the dude's aged a bit, and so she goes, "I don't recognize him like whatsoever," and so I tried to do the best impression I could of him, and then she goes, "Oh yeah, I see it, man. He got old." Da 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 da. I'm like, "Yep." That's the dude. Everybody had their younger days. Everybody gets old. But yep, that's him on the screen. I'm going to have to like look him up here real quick. I got to talk enough about him. I have to tell you what his name is.
Perfectly fine. You can look him up. I can tell you some things that I've done over the week.
Please
if
do,
you are
Russ.
so interested.
Russ, even if I wanted to get away, I couldn't because I have you in both sides of my head.
It's just the way I like it. So let me think here. While you were looking for that particular gentleman, I actually watched I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's essentially like Batman and what is it? Oh, Batman Gotham by Gaslight. It's on HBO.
Uh-huh.
Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
No.
Okay. It's not bad. It's pretty good. It's definitely a different take on the world of Batman. They mix the whole like Jack the Ripper storyline and fuse it, cross-pollinate it, if you will.
Bumblebee to one flower to another.
Exactly, Steve, exactly. But it was interesting because they took certain characters that we all know and love from the Batman world and applied them to the various characters that you have come to know in Jack the Ripper. So one of the characters from the Batman world is Jack the Ripper, which was really cool. And it was kind of like that, whoa, who done it? Was it you or was it you? Not quite sure what's going on. And like the art style, it's kind of like this also hybrid of like Batman's not in his typical suit. It's very much like not totally Van Helsing, but like in that time period, where you have like that style of coat and like his cowl has like larger eye sockets and he doesn't have like the black eye makeup and stuff. Like it's a period piece. But I think that's one of the things that's interesting about the thing overall. I'm always a big fan of that. You actually watched that one anime film recently I think it was called Batman Ninja, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it was.
So if you think about the aesthetic of that, how like, that they clearly were celebrating a lot of the ancient Japan samurai type of armor and time period, that sort of thing. Kind of like that, only it was more in the British verge of the industrial age kind of thing. So that was, it was worth a watch. Good. I probably won't watch it necessarily lots of times, maybe like one or two more times. But, I was curious about it. It had popped up on HBO, little suggestion lane that they have down there. So I'm like, I'm going to watch it. Yeah. Did I also tell you that I beat Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart?
No.
Oh, I did. Mm. Oh, yeah. Really, really fun game. I cannot recommend that game enough. That is actually probably so far my favorite game I've played on the PS5. It definitely gives a nice overview, if you will, of the various types of capabilities of the system. Just in terms of like, you have like the ray tracing, you have a lot of different types of camera work, the haptic feedback within the controller. This is probably the first game since Astro's Playroom, where like they actually put some thoughtfulness into, okay, how can we take advantage of this for our game? There's a lot of different things that they were doing in there that I really appreciated. Like they were using it for like different types of rain pit patterns, kind of like what Astro's Playroom does. Or if like you're slogging through puddles, you get that kind of sensation. Or if you're going through kind of like a desolate wasteland area, you can feel almost like whether it's like your feet kind of falling through, like not through, but falling down into the dirt or sand, or you feel the gravel kind of rolling down by your feet and that sort of thing. A lot of little things like that I really got a kick out of. And the animation, like all of the enemies, all of the different other supportive cast and whatnot, really well done. Like I was thoroughly impressed with the level of production value. Like, like if you watch or say you play a video game and you're like, okay, I'm talking about ones that are not necessarily motion captured. This is like mostly, if not 100%, hand animated. Like you'll get to a certain point, but like you can still at the end of the day tell it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of like, what a video game is supposed to look like, right? It's how the characters move and stuff. And in this game, I was really impressed with how organic and fluid and just, you have like these traditional principles of animation that are clearly on display in this game. And so I have a feeling they've probably had that for this series for a while. And again, this is like my first foray into the game itself. So I didn't know what to expect. I had a great time.
Nice.
Currently making my way through their version of New Game Plus. Apparently in New Game Plus, there are certain weapons that become unlocked that you could not get during your first playthrough. It's what we call incentive.
Hashtag. I just have to borrow the PlayStation 5 and play it, Russ.
Oh, absolutely, Steve.
As soon as you're done with it.
Oh, well, you can come on over anytime.
I found his name.
Oh.
That's Robert Loggia. Loggia. That guy. Anyhow, born in 1930, passed in 2015.
Let me see that.
Come on, Russ. Kind of sounds like, oh man, I'm gonna do it. I forgot one of his lines, but it kind of sounds like this. Hey, I just got out of prison. Come on, guys. Come with me. Come on. You know him.
This guy was in Independence Day.
Was he?
He was the general.
He probably what? Well,
he was.
Okay, well, minimize a picture. Go back. Dib lets you do that. Just
well, here,
flick it down. Let me
your phone. Go ahead and take a look at that. I think he was like the general in there.
He was the boss in Big.
He was.
Russ.
Yes.
Yup, you're right. Independence Day. Right there.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I know my Independence Day.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've also been I have been watching the Harley Quinn animated show on HBO. I think I mentioned this to you in the past a little bit, but the first season, it consists of like 14 or 15 episodes. I mean, it is pretty impressive, like how many episodes they have within the first season. I've made it through 11 episodes. And I'm really liking it a lot.
Are you really?
I am. It's funny because they don't take it seriously. It's weird because like the cartoon is like super violent. Like it's totally like that Adult Swim type of cartoon. But at the same time, it's like this satire. Like they poke fun at kind of the Batman world, but it's not like slapstick funny. It's more clever humor, whether it's like really biting dialogue or quips and that sort of thing. But then at the same time, there's also some physical humor in there as well and whatnot. I gotta say, I'm really liking it a lot. I can only watch like maybe 2 or 3 episodes at a time because it's just so in your face. Oh, like whenever you watch it. But having said that, I mean, like I've really been enjoying making my way through that. Do you have HBO Max?
Yes, Russ.
Oh, well then you can watch it too.
Okay.
Anyway, that was a lot of fun. Now, one of the other things that's worthy of note, Steve.
Okay.
I found a box, a cardboard box, as I was cleaning my closet.
Got a lot of those around here, Russ.
I do. I really do. This one, however, had a little Sharpie label that said Plano Comics on it. I was like,
Had fragile.
oh, interesting.
Marked on
fragile. But anyway, I was like, I don't remember what the heck is in this thing. Let me open this thing up. And apparently they were comic books that I had purchased back in like 2012.
Man.
And that was like way back when I was like working on Borderlands 2 and like a buddy of mine from Gearbox and I would sometimes take these extended lunches and go to the local comic book shop. Well, I had bought like a grouping of these comics, and I guess when I moved out of Dallas and into like more of the suburbs, I totally forgot I had this box, and it's been sitting in my closet for quite some time ever since then. But I forgot what it was. I have the very first issue of Miles Morales as Spider-Man. Like it was the weirdest thing. I'm like, what is this? And it's the one that's like issue number 1. It says all new Spider-Man. But when they had released it, it was inside this kind of gray looking packet, and it was interesting because you couldn't actually see the actual cover of the comic book. Like you literally would have to tear open the gray. I don't want to call it bag, but it's like basically this packet that it's in, and then in order to see it and read it and everything else. I've never opened it. It's like right there. And so I was pretty stoked actually to see that, especially considering the fact that I've gotten to know the character Miles Morales over the last several years with like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and then even with the video game with Spider-Man Miles Morales. And he's definitely been more and more into the kind of the pop culture spotlight. So that's really cool. I was really happy about that. And I have like issue 1, 2, 3, I think issues 1 through like 9 or something, like the first 9. I had no idea who this was. I think at the time I was just like, well, this looks cool. This is different. I guess I'll just take it and thank you.
It's a mystery box for comics.
It's a mystery box indeed. Last but not least, I just wanted to say that we did play Overwatch.
We did. Yeah, for a little bit.
What did you think?
That was fun.
Yeah.
I had a good time with that. Yeah,
you got quite a few of the old play of the game.
Yeah, I did, but you know, it happens every once in a while. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen every once in a while.
It really does, Steve. You know, it really, really does.
And it was fun, too.
Why is the rum gone? Because it's the topic of the day! Our topic of the day is
the Sea of Thieves, A Pirate's Tale. This is a DLC pack that got dropped earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken, to all very happy Xbox owners everywhere. This is a big expansion pack to the very popular game by Rare, and we were able to give it a spin. We were able to get with our friends Nick and Ree, who are kind of like our mainstay crew, our pirate crew, if you will. And so we were both very, very interested in finding out what this game, or really this expansion pack, had included. Just simply because, you know, we had seen the E3 trailer. We were very curious about what all was in store. It looked like it had quite a bit, but we weren't exactly sure if what we were seeing / hearing was specifically for the trailer,
Right.
and not necessarily the game. Steve, what are your initial impressions of what you've seen so far? And
Right.
we should probably kind of let them know that we're not
Preface
very...
this. Yeah, we're not very far in there yet. We've just done like the first section of the game. But I will say, it's right now it's kind of slow. So a bit. I mean, nothing in Sea of Thieves is really going to be like intense.
No.
Unless you're being chased down by fellow pirates and you're about to lose all your loot and stuff like that. But I will say it's a bit boring.
Boring?
Boring. Think of it this way. Like when you die in Sea of Thieves and you go to the Ferry of the Damned, and you're just kind of hanging out there until the machine reloads you or spawns you right back into the game. You know, it looks, you're basically at like the bottom of the ocean sort of thing. There's nothing to really look at, and it's kind of that green turquoisey kind of color, and there's nothing really much to really appreciate until you're back in your ship or back on the island and you're appreciating the beauty and you're with everybody else and whatnot. And so you take the DLC now, and it's basically, at least the part that we played,
Yes.
is like a different part of the Ferry of the Damned. You're on the ferry or you're on the land, but it's still like that same kind of dreary backdrop.
Sure.
And so I kind of got like a little bit tired of it. I wanted to get back into like the plush, areas that we visited, and I wanted to see, Captain Jack Sparrow in the world that we're used to within the Sea of Thieves, with all like the beautiful colors and the water and everything.
Sure.
And so fast forward until we were done and we kind of went back through the portal, it was almost a sense of relief. Like, I can see the sky, I can see clouds, I can see blue water, I can see all this, that, and the other. And I know they were going for like a look, but I just kind of thought it was not nearly as much happening as I would have liked to be excited, I guess. I was kind of hoping that they would have... one thing that was really cool was that they had the original, pirates or dead men tell no tales kind of thing. But after you heard it for like the 36th time, I was like, I get it. All right, the coolness is kind of worn off.
So I really liked it. I thought it was really cool how it was a very purposeful journey. I thought it was cool how they're taking more of a storytelling approach with this particular expansion pack, where like in the past, like you would have these very basic type of missions that you would have to go on, or voyages, and you would kind of fill in the gaps as you go along. You kind of almost like make your own story, that sort of thing. But what was nice about this was that we were kind of going into more of, not necessarily like a dimension per se, but it was kind of like the land of the dead almost, which does play a part in the whole ride of Pirates of the Caribbean. So I really enjoyed how when we got into this space, it definitely had more of that supernatural vibe to it, kind of an in-between state, if you will. And I really liked the use of voices. So like you alluded to this, but one of the things that I thought was very, very cool within this expansion is they have finally addressed something that I have been wanting for years since this game first came out, which is to actually have robust VO for various characters you come across. And so what was nice was that we would be walking through and kind of doing these little puzzles or finding our way through these caverns and that sort of thing. And what was nice about that was it was a departure from having to go get animals, having to dig up treasure, like those types of monotonous activities. It just is so old. And this instead, you can tell it like they took cues from the ride itself, where as you're going along, like it is more of a storytelling journey. They don't want to just like all of a sudden fast forward to where the battles take place and stuff. They want to like immerse us into the world of what pirates are like. And so I, for one, was really glad and happy about kind of the environment that we got to check out for the first tale. And so that's one of the things that we learned about too, is that this game is specifically this expansion actually consists of multiple pirate tales. And we just played the first one. And I was looking on their website and they are talking about how as you go along, you play more of these tales and stuff, how like some of those different aspects of it, like, Captain Jack Sparrow and that sort of thing will actually go more into kind of the real world space with you. But before I go too far into that, the voices themselves. So like you come across certain characters like, okay, so we all know that Jack Sparrow's in the game. I was absolutely in love with the fact that we got to hear him talk, and not just a little bit, not just a one-liner, but like actually like persistently throughout the play experience, we got to hear him talk. And it so brought his character to life. The same thing can be said for like when we pick up the skull, which we'll talk about in a minute here, but like hearing, again, just a character filled with lines totally just brought that character to life. And as a result, like as a byproduct, it brought the actual world more to life because we were hearing more than just ambient noises, right? And in the past, like people like you, myself, and our friends, like we would fill in kind of that audio gap, if you will, by us being able to do voices and talk and that sort of thing. So that was a huge plus in my book to actually hear that. And I really liked how they did, in fact, infuse some of the rides, like with whether it was the main kind of narrator, so to speak, of the ride, depending on like where we got within certain puzzles, or if we were making our way traversing through these caverns and whatnot, you would be able to hear him say certain lines, and that was cool. But I was glad that they didn't completely go down the road of Pirates of the Caribbean, where like they were like copying and pasting like what the ride actually looks like. They still made it Sea of Thieves, but they brought in these certain elements, which I thought were really nice. Now, the pirate tale itself was a bit interesting in the sense that they're clearly wanting to push this idea of exposition, which again, I really like, because typically when you're playing Sea of Thieves, like you'll choose like whatever type of mission or voyage you want to go on to or whatever, and they'll give you some like text to read up front to kind of set the scene. Right. But then you go out and you just kind of accomplish these things. What's different about this is what I think is really cool is I think having them continue to be able to drop little nuggets of storytelling and that sort of thing as you move along, as you solve certain puzzles and you kind of make your way through this area. I really like that. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was partially fun because it was different. To me, it just didn't really bring to life really that much. It was nice that it was, Captain Jack Sparrow, but I mean, to me, it was more towards the end. We really heard this other pirate guy, talking throughout, like he's guiding you to go to different areas and do little things to find the key and to find the trinkets and get him down. And he's telling you stories throughout. And then it's kind of like basically the last quarter, I guess, of the whole thing that you are following Jack Sparrow around. And he's talking to you. He's telling you what's going on, where he is, and how he fits in the Sea of Thieves and whatnot. And then that's basically wrapping it up. So, I mean, I think you just had a whole different experience than I did. I mean, I'm not there where I'm never gonna play the thing again. It just didn't. I was hoping for a bit more excitement, and
it was surprising how like there wasn't like we weren't like thrust immediately into like the swashbuckling fighting and everything else. Like it was interesting how they chose more of that kind of puzzle solving, almost like enigma. But I think at the same time, I think it depends on how many tales there are to be told, right? If they only have like 2 or 3 tales, well then that's kind of a bummer. But I mean, who knows how many? I mean, they may have 5 or 10. It really depends on how many they're going to go with. And I think in terms of like what we did since we played the very first tale, is it's setting the scene, right? Like we got to see all these shipwrecks and we got to get kind of back in touch with different types of pirates who have passed on, who are in ghost form, and they're just doing all the things that you've come to know and love about when you go on the ride at Disneyland and that sort of thing. I think that's really nice because it's again, we're not just fast forwarding to just kind of like the little instant gratification parts, but like we're actually able to kind of take a moment and see how all this stuff plays in. And I feel like it helps to almost like flesh out or populate the world of Sea of Thieves better, because that's one of the things that we talk about quite a bit is how you really don't come across like other types of NPCs throughout the world. I mean, like if you're at a harbor, like what do you call those islands that have
a pier?
Yeah, like basically the places that have like the bar or pub or whatever. That's where you will tend to find a couple of NPCs. Once you embark on a journey and you go to another island, the chances of you coming across an NPC are very few and far between. And I would even go so far as to say that it wasn't until maybe like a year or 2 ago, maybe I would say 2 years ago, where they actually started to sprinkle just a little bit of NPCs here and there, but based off the latest DLC drops. But before that, it was literally just undead skeletons.
Yeah, I like with Merrick and stuff, like with the the Megalodon and whatnot. But either way, even if you found an NPC, you'd walk up to them and they'd stand in one spot. They wouldn't even like walk around anything around the map. They would be stagnant right there, and then you would click a button and have them say something. But the only thing they would say is and then they would give you a whole paragraph of text, and then you would click the button, and then you go, "Mer," and then they would another paragraph of text. You're like, what in the world? So yeah, I mean, they're finally going in the right direction. Thank goodness, and they're coming up to the day and age when there is voiceover for characters. They're not just texting, whatnot. So thank you, Sea of Thieves, for getting with the times.
What did you think of the whole carrying the skull around?
I'm glad that when I first picked up the skull, I'm like, this thing better talk to me. It's 2022. I've been playing this game for a while.
2021, Steve.
You're right. I am 6 months into the future.
You're in the future.
I am in the future. But who knows what they're going to have in 2022? Right? It might just be the
maybe
same
you'll
thing.
have 2 talking skulls.
Yeah. Anyhow, so I'm picking this thing up and I'm looking at it, and sure enough, it starts to talk to me. I'm like, okay, there we go. Expectation met. But you were streaming, and so I thought, well, maybe I should hand this to Russ, because what your screen shows...
That was a good call. Yeah. That was a good call.
What your screen shows, everyone's going to see. I'm like, here, take this thing from me.
Well, and I didn't know what was happening at first, because I simply didn't see the skull. So that was definitely a good move, because I was streaming, and so I made a point to kind of like just have the skull sometimes like close up to my camera, or I like hold it away so you can kind of see it and to kind of move it around and stuff. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. They're going to give you the key also, and like the coin and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, you're take this thing, get it away from me. You got to do everything.
Well, and it's great too, because then like if, let's say for instance, like a door would open, then I would watch as you guys would go through the door first, and then I go through, for cinematic purposes.
Right.
If you're watching us on Twitch, I got to try and entertain you.
And then, but as Nick was saying, there's a part where you can get all this gold. And so you're collecting a bunch of gold, and you think, okay, awesome. I got, thousands and thousands of coins. I want more. I'm a pirate. I like gold. Why not? So, but they kind of just tease you. I think you were saying it in the stream. Like, you're just real teasing us because you have all these piles of gold and you can't collect anything. unless you're in this one little spot. I thought, nuts.
Well, it was an odd choice, right? Because
Yeah.
on the one hand, clearly we don't have pockets deep enough to
Right.
be able to carry all that gold. However,
But we do carry about 10 cannonballs.
we do.
Plus fruit.
Yes. And coconuts. But I think at the same time, though, it's odd to me that they decided to have a room that has piles of gold that are, more or less the same sizes of kind of the other gold piles we have come across, but yet we can't collect the gold from those areas. And I realize like they're doing set dressing to a certain extent with the environments, but I'm like, okay, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, cause you see that happen. You're like, oh, okay, well then I'll go over here. I have, discovered more gold laying on the ground. I'd like to pick that up, and for whatever reason you can't. So I'm like, well, okay, that's maybe they run. I don't know if they ran out of time or I don't know. Creative decision was made.
Just gold texturing on the floor.
Exactly. I was a little bummed that there were no doubloons because I really want to be able to collect more of those. But maybe they will be sprinkled throughout some of the other tales that get unlocked and whatnot. I wanted to go back really quick and talk about the skull just because I was really happy like you to see it animate and to see it talk. I mean, like I carried it for most of the, I would say like 85% of the time. So I got to see what he was talking about. So sometimes he would be giving me, and maybe this is partially why you didn't have as much of an entertaining experience now that I think about it, is the Skull Captain, or the Captain Skull, I don't know. He would be dropping different nuggets of story, like after every little part or piece of the puzzle that we would solve. Or like if we went into like certain areas of a shipwreck, right, where we would see like kind of a pub area, or we would see people, playing chess.
Sure.
He would have these different things that I just assumed you guys could hear.
We could hear it.
You could hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it was just more entertaining to actually like, you see him like, he's like right there in your face. And so like, that was really fun to me. Like, I mean, how much I love that kind of stuff. So like, it was nice to see that. Or like, he would even like play jokes on me. Like, I think I mentioned to you guys, which Nick had experienced it the first time he played through this tale. But it's not at one point. Like there's a few times like it kind of gets like randomized,
like trying to spook you.
Yeah. It was really fun because he's like, it's quiet, too quiet, and he just kind of like sits there in your hand for a while, and then all of a sudden he goes, boo, and like little things like that. Like those are the things that I personally appreciate when it comes to injecting more of that personality and character into something like that. Now, if we were to push forward to Jack Sparrow being in the Dead Man's Ferry, I really liked this idea in terms of the placement, because if you think about it, up until this point, anytime we die when we're in the world of Sea of Thieves, we go to the Dead Man's Ferry, and then we have to kind of wait part of like the penalty.
Yeah.
We gotta wait for the doors to open, and then the doors open, and you're able to come back and fight another day. But we never have seen the guts of the Dead Man's Ferry boat. And so, what did you? I mean, are you in agreement in the sense that like first of all, that was really fun to be able to like go down, because I was like, what the heck is in this thing?
Yeah, really.
And then secondly, the fact that we do get to see Jack Sparrow in the cage with the dog, he's whistling with the bone, that sort of thing. I just thought that was perfect.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was, towards the end, and then you're kind of walking behind Jack Sparrow. I think we're all kind of like pawning for like, who's going to be in front of him? Because I want to see his face. I'm like walking behind him and seeing the back of Jack Sparrow's head. I'm like, oh man. And then, he had some communication with the ferryman, the dead ferryman.
Yes.
About what was happening with the Flying Dutchman ship. And I was kind of losing it there. I'm like, what on earth are you guys really talking about? Like, yeah, okay, Jack did something bad, and now it's gotten worse, and then something bad's going to happen, I guess. And then that ship came out of nowhere. I was like, ooh, cool. But then we were pelting that crap out of that thing. Thank goodness they gave us like 50 cannonballs each.
We were. No, that was a lot of fun. One of the things that I do think about as you were describing that scene, I wish that we were able to be able to experience that with Nick and Ree for the very first time, because they were basically our guides.
Right.
Like if you could almost think of like if you and I were at Disneyland and we had like two personal Disney assistants that were there, and they're just kind of like, oh, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Which is fine because it helped us to avoid any kind of like frustration or whatever.
Right.
At the same time though, what was lost was that spontaneous sense of like, what do we do? I don't know. You want to get cannibal? Oh crap. Like you see all this stuff going on. And so that if I could go back, that would be the one thing I would change with it. But yeah, I think that why I love seeing Jack Sparrow in the belly of the ferryman's boat is that just from the movies alone, it's obvious that he has complicated relationships with both the living and the dead. Like he's been around enough places to like all of a sudden like have very odd and weird and cursed filled things happen. And as a result, he has relationships in very odd places. And so I thought that was very appropriate given all things.
I was hoping I could see that, like, when we came out of that dimension, I guess, back in the world of Sea of Thieves, I was hoping that we could see like, for his hand go from a regular hand to like the bony hand, like we see in the movie.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I was waiting for that to happen and it never happened. I'm like, nuts. But I guess maybe later on they'll probably show us something.
And that was from the first film. That was the Curse of the Black Pearl. But then after that movie, he has the curse removed. And so, I think this takes place almost after all the films that have come out so far. So it'll be interesting to see what are your thoughts in terms of how the expansion pack is broken up into these separate tales.
I think it's a good way to elongate the entire
bookmarks
experience.
it, right?
Yeah, bookmarks it because you don't want to wrap it up too quick. I mean, Sea of Thieves is, you're going to go to play that game every once in a while, but you're going to get tired of going to the islands and doing all the same tasks all over again. So, with this DLC, if they can push it out a bit, so you go, okay, well, here's a chapter, and then after you're done with that one, here's another chapter, here's another chapter. It's going to take a while to complete the whole thing, the whole story. Yeah. And so I'm actually kind of grateful for that because, if it was just one experience like the Ashlands, for example, they open up this new part of the map, which is cool, but then once you're there, you kind of see everything there is to see, and it's kind of more of the same thing, just the scenery is different. Then you go, okay, well, we did it, that's cool, and that's that. Or you fight a megalodon, and then that's that,
right?
Or they had the DLC drop where it's like that big ghost pirate. And that was the first time we heard the voice. That was the best voiceover so far, by the way. That was pretty freaking cool. But anyhow, but then you see him and you do that. Okay, then it's done, right? So at least with this, they're going to push it out for quite a bit, and I think that's going to draw a lot of folks back to continue to play.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in terms of how they have it set up, I do like how they have it in such a way where it's almost like you're reading a book. You have these bookmarks. So you finish one tale, you go back to the Sea of Thieves real world. My hope is that as you go along these tales, that they begin to bleed into the real world, and then maybe even some of those things stay once you've completed all these different things. Like the Flying Dutchman, for example, would be a wonderful addition to the world, like you say, with the Megalodon, with the undead ships. Like, again, it's about fleshing out this world that they've been doing for several years now. And this, even today, it is the most fleshed out world as opposed to when the game first was released. And as a result, it is fun. I think Sea of Thieves enjoys how, like, if you don't play the game for a while and you come back and then, you come across the Kraken or you come across the Megalodon or the ships or whatever it may be, even if you come across other players that are trying to board you and that sort of thing. If you allow time to just kind of let things become entertaining again, I think that's a big payoff. And so I feel like you and I are at that point in terms of with the timing of this expansion. What are your hopes though to see with regards to these upcoming tales? Like as we go along into it, is there anything that you want to see happen or you want to experience?
You know, I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be a little more in your face. Actually, like, you know, like if you fight a Kraken, for example, like there's no real getting away from it. If you get sucked up by one of those tentacles, like you're going to be yelling and you're going to be looking all, you know, down at your ship like, I'm going to die sort of thing. But it's in your face. Same thing with like the Megalodon. So what I'm kind of hoping for is that, you know, when we see more of these characters from, you know, the story, I want a lot to happen all at once. I want a lot of like dead pirates to come up, not from the Sea of Thieves, but like from the movie, for example. So we have something different to look at, but I want to be swarmed with them, like a whole deck full of dead pirates, right? Like in the movies. Or, you know, if the Black Pearl comes up out of the ocean right in front of your boat or something, you know, in your face, because that's gonna cause me to be like, you know, reacting all crazy, and that's what I hope for the game, because there's a lot of, like I said before, there's a lot of downtime, and so when there's not downtime, I want it to be really exciting.
Sure, and it's worthy of note too that we haven't seen all of Jack Sparrow's crew yet. Right. And apparently they have multiple characters from the films that will make appearances, whether they join us in these different types of subsequent tales, or if they just have tips or different tools perhaps that they can give us that we can use as we go along these tales, which, again, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies are some of the best. I mean, like if I were to think of like different types of pirate movies that have come and gone, Pirates of the Caribbean is definitely like at the top. It's just such a fun world to gallivant in, dare I say.
Oh, good word there, Russ.
Thank you very much. That wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm, where you can enjoy exclusive perks and early access to the show. Not to mention, it helps us continue doing what we love to do. Also, make sure you parlay that subscription button. Maybe even launch a cannonball at that notification bell. That way you will not miss a single episode of Joygasm that drops once a week, every week, on both YouTube and your favorite podcast provider. Also, you want to do a search for Joygasm TV on your favorite social media platform of choice, whether that's Instagram, Spotify, or Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want to do, because we always drop all kinds of ridiculous goodness in those 8 places. Last but not least, do a search for Joygasm on Twitch to see us stream our video game adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. In fact, we'll probably be playing more Sea of Thieves, which you're not going to want to miss. Until next time, happy gaming.